It's another beautiful Sunday afternoon. This is Robin Minds. Welcome. My name is Ebuka Obiuchende. Thanks a lot for joining us. We're going to be celebrating International Youth Day today on the show. Hopefully just to take our minds away from a lot that's happening around us. But I mean, you can't talk about Nigeria without talking about the youth and that a very huge demographic of people who are sort of supposed to be the fuel for the economy and the future of this country. Certain sectors of the economy seems to be dominated, at least, by young people or the youth that I was talking about today, and they seem to be doing pretty well. Talking about tech and entertainment, and it's quite impressive that the sectors that young people seem to have a hang of are sort of the ones surviving or thriving the most in spite of government. I have here with me Ayomide Lasaki, tech co-founder of Flux. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you.
I know I'm not wrong in what I just said at the start of this show. Sorry about that. How have things been? Because a lot of people have complained about, entrepreneurship and COVID and lockdowns and how it has sort of affected the economy. But it seems like tech and telecoms seem to be the two sectors that thrived even more with this. How have things been for you and for young people you work with in this last 2 years?
Okay, so like I said, thank you for having me here. I think the major factor to that is the internet, really. Right, so you have tech and telecoms hinged on the internet, so you are not constrained by the lockdown. You understand? So yeah, I'll just say that it's been good. It's been good.
Why do you think young people are doing so well in tech, and it doesn't seem like that is reflecting in a lot of other sectors? Is it because young people are sort of running things here? Or is there just an interest more now in tech? Because, I mean, there's more money there anyways.
Oh, well, there's more money there, of course. But I think that it's more of a, how do I put it? This generation is we are more, familiar with these things. We are on the internet, we're on YouTube. We see what other people are doing in other countries. We see what other companies are able to pull off, right? And we are also able to see those things out there. We're able to see what we have in here also. So I'll just say that we are, gradually moving to a stage where things are going to be driven by the digital economy, right? Economies are going to be greatly influenced by the digital economy. So I think that has a major role to play in why tech seems to be booming in that sense.
Speaking of major roles, how much has government policy affected the tech space? We saw what happened with Twitter about 2-3 months ago. Yeah. I know a lot of tech friends and people I even follow on social media had a lot to say about how this would have a ripple effect on investment in a sector like that. Yeah. And we've seen what happened with cryptocurrency. You know, there's this, tomorrow the government has banned that. Do these flip-flops or sort of switch-ups in policy affect you in that sector? Because, like I said, tech seems to still be thriving in spite of all of this. How much does this affect you, and how much should government be doing differently?
Okay, so policy has a very huge role to play in anything, really, right? So if you're in an environment, the policies of the land, the regulations of the land have a very huge role to play in what you're allowed to do, what you're not allowed to do. And I would just say that young people need to be included more, right? Young people need to be included more when these policies are being made. I don't believe that these policies are made intentionally to, choke Nigerians, right? But I just feel like the perspective is different. And if young people are involved in, these decision-making processes and all that, they are able to, lend their own opinion, let people that are actually making these policies see things from this light and, help them understand what is going to be affected by some things.
Let's go to Azizat Ishao, who's a co-founder of Constitution Labs. Azizat, can you hear me? How are you doing?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you so much.
Okay, very well. And we also have Aminat Sule from the UK, I believe. How are you guys doing?
I'm well, thank you very much.
All right. Let me start with you, Azizat, because we've talked a lot about tech here with Ayomide, and I want to know, do you think tech would be the savior for Nigeria? Because we're hearing very crazy numbers with regards to unemployment, and I think it was something around 33% unemployment, and it's even crazier when you look at just youth unemployment. When you now factor in underemployment, it's mind-blowing. But tech seems to be thriving. Is it a huge enough sector, industry to absorb this? Because government keeps talking about agriculture. It looks like that's what the priority of government is. Could tech be the savior for this?
Thank you so much. So I would just like to say that we try to look at these things in isolation, and that is what's the problem. There's tech in everything that we are doing. Tech is the future. But as African as developing countries, we have a lot of research to do, a lot of backup to do, to understand how we can evaluate the level of economic development, educational development, overall development of Nigeria, and how we can match it up with what is happening in advanced countries or what we have right now. So when government is technology is the way this is our generation and this is the generation of information technology data. So we can't say that we are into agriculture and we can't use technology. Because technology for a country with such large population, agriculture is the base for it. Even in advanced countries, they try to be sustainable. They try there's emphasis on food security, and that is the theme of this year's the national youth Day, which is what a securing a food system. And now young people can ensure that as well. So for me, technology is relevant in this age and time. Just like we had industrial age, we had different kinds of ages, so far. Now that we are in information technology, as a developing country, as Nigeria as a country, we must know where we have to place technology in all the level of development sector that we want to have in the country. So I totally agree. Technology goes beyond just holding your phones or entertainment or things that are specifically on the use of a mobile phone. You understand me? So technology has other ways for application. One of the things that amazes me was that I think 2 years ago, I was at the Microsoft gathering and we're talking about the power of artificial intelligence, Azuri. I'm still amazed at what Azuri can do with health, that can promote or even bridge the health gap that we have here in Nigeria in terms of delivering good service healthcare to remote areas as well. And also, apparently, there are technological devices and apps that people can use to augment agriculture production, augment agriculture distribution, augment agriculture storage, and so on and so forth. So, technology has a place in every aspect of development, and Nigeria can definitely tap into it.
The youth have been accused of a lot is sort of this disconnect with the older generation, especially those in government. On the one hand, there seems to be a belief by young people that government does not like them. Especially because of the way policies are sort of thrown out. But more from the younger or from the youth, there's hardly a feeling or a need. People don't see a need to engage government. There's a lot of apathy towards politics. The government is seen as the enemy. The older generation is seen as the enemy. Do you see that? And what should be done differently, especially by young people? Because whether we like it or not, we are going to be here for much longer than the people we are supposed to be fighting or not sort of connecting with. So what should we be doing differently?
By the time we are consistently exposed to the same stimulus, we join the same old backbone, the same ideology, and then become custodians of this same old ideology that is impeding development. So, as a young person, I'm actively involved in leadership in civic space and in politics as well. And there are some of the skills that I've learned, and that is one thing that is like as young people in developing countries are at opposite end with their leaders and such like that. Because of globalization, there's a lot of things you can learn from things.
Aziza, sorry, I'll come back to you because we're having a bit of an issue with your audio, so we're just going to come back to you. Let me quickly go to Aminat Sule, who's also joining us via Zoom. Aminat, You are a part of a huge demographic now of young people in the diaspora. And it's becoming even more of a trend now to japa, like we say these days. You know, there's a huge attraction with Canada, with the UK, with the United States, with Australia. People just literally want to leave. And there's always the argument, how do you help the situation by just leaving? Because we saw what happened with the brain drain in the 70s and the 80s, and a lot of people say that Nigeria is where we are today because we lost some of our best minds and our best brains to that. And it seems like it's happening again, and probably even worse this time. You know, what are your thoughts on how, you know, this is playing out and what young people should be doing? I mean, is it still possible to build Nigeria from outside of Nigeria? Should young people have to leave to do that? And why should they leave if they have to?
Thank you for having me firstly on today's show, Ebuka. In regards to the japa culture that we are experiencing at the moment, it is by default that when you're in a position that you feel uncomfortable or that you're not progressing, that you will leave a situation. As human beings, that is by default. I think personally, I am someone who is a pioneer of trying to change Nigeria, and I have been for the last 6 years working on projects within, you know, the UK and the diaspora as a whole to bridge the gap between the diaspora and Nigerians, because really and truly, the current situation that we are facing in Nigeria is a pandemic in itself. And I say that it's a pandemic in itself because loads of people are running for escapism in Canada and in the UK. And if we could just all come together and we could all figure out one agenda, and that agenda should be to create a better Nigeria for every single Nigerian. It's no longer a point of division. I mean, as Izzat rightfully said, that there's a divide at the moment. And also you mentioned it rightfully in regards to the older generation and the younger generation. But what is important is that everybody adds value to this chain. So it's not a role for one's role to be more important than the other. We all add value. So if we can all work together collectively at this point and just for once put the politics aside, insurgency is on a high in Nigeria at the moment. Unemployment is on a rise. The economy at the moment is on a brink of becoming a ridiculous catastrophe if we're not careful. And I think at this point, we must all join forces. People like myself in the diaspora who have made the active decision to relocate to Nigeria. We are here. You know, young Buhari said not too long ago in his last interview, Nigerians are, you know, if they're looking for employment, they should behave themselves. There should not be a caveat there at all. There should not be a caveat in regards to satisfy behaving yourself and we'll provide you with employment. There are people like myself and there's so many of us that are in the diaspora that are ready to move back, are ready to help and work with Nigerians on ground because we don't know it all at all. There's so much that we all have to learn. So everybody has a part to play at the moment, every single one of us. And if we all can come together and take up that role and play that part effectively, I do see change happening in Nigeria and I see it very soon. I'm a Nigerian ready to move back, ready imminently to move back. In fact, I'm moving back next month and I'm ready. I'm ready to do the work that is necessary. And I'm quite frankly tired of the conversations that we've been having. We're ready now at this point to create solutions. So it's about time we come together as one and start doing such.
So you are one of many. Do you find in conversations with other young Nigerians that this is also the sentiment about wanting to move back? I know you say you're moving back next month. Great. When you talk with other people, even if they say they want to move back, what are the sort of conditions they give? You know, to say, okay, this is why I would move back as a young person back to Nigeria, or do they even want to move back at all? Because I see a lot of things on social media saying goodbye Nigeria, never to come back, pretty much. You know, do you get that when you interact with Nigerians out there?
So, I mean, everybody's experience is definitely different. I am someone who has been born and raised in the UK my entire life. And, you know, some of my friends in Nigeria look at me like, you're absolutely crazy, do not come here. But regardless of that thought, that is because of their experience. Whereas I have been fortunate enough to experience a structured system. So in my opinion, I almost feel indebted to the average Nigerian in Nigeria that doesn't have the opportunities that I have had, simply because if they did have those opportunities, they would have excelled much more in their careers than I have, because Nigerian youth are resilient. They are extremely resilient. They're extremely well equipped, and they're very intelligent. So based with opportunities, by default, they will excel. A lot of Nigerians in the UK, on the other hand, they're comfortable. The UK provides the basic necessities that you need: education, healthcare. But at one point, do you want to be continuously building a system that is already developed? Or do you want to take your expertise that you have learned from a developed system and go back home and go and invest in a system there and create solutions? And I think it depends on what side of the coin you fall on.
Very, very, very valid point there. I agree. Let me quickly just take Azizat again. If you're back, hopefully your audio is clear. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Okay. Just to quickly round up what you were saying, I don't know if you can remember where you stopped off, just to conclude your points if you want to, yeah.
Can you help me with that? Because I was still following what Amina was saying. And
we're talking about the disconnects between the young and these two generations.
Yes. And so I was saying that the reason why this disconnect is so large is because of we're in a global village. I've been a global village rather, and so young people in Nigeria can see what is possible outside Nigeria. You understand what I'm saying? So the technological advancement, the possibility, the opportunities are right there on the internet. On the internet, you can be certified, you can become a professional, you can start doing a lot of things. So that is why you expect as people, because they say a lot of things about young people are impatient, young people are not patient. Whereas when we leave this country, we are resilient, we are committed, we are professional, we are at the top of our games. In the last 2 years, in COVID, in the advancement of COVID-19 vaccine, in coming up with wonderful inventions, Nigerians have been on the top of this space. During this year as well, we had several Nigerians, both home and abroad, in the agri-tech, in the fintech, in all forms. In Africa, we have during the COVID-19, we have several African Nigerian tech startups that survived COVID-19, receiving millions of dollars, bringing in investment millions of dollars to Africa and Nigeria. So at the end of the day, for me to just at the end of the day, the government has to understand that we are able to see, and this is our generation, this is what we are. We are fast people, we are accurate. So whatever the government, when we sit on the right thing, whatever the ideas are, must be what at that level, understanding that Nigerians, young Nigerians are able to see the future as well.
All right. Thank you very much. Let me just quickly round up with you now before we go on a break. She has a lot of hopes there for fintech and the tech space and all of that. Is that too much pressure, you think, on the tech space? Or is the potential actually that real?
I don't think it's enough pressure, actually. Right? I think that the tech space should be more encouraged than it is, because you want to ask the question, do we have enough innovation already? No, we don't, right? So I would want to say that the pressure should actually be increased. The pressure to make the young people interested in tech, right, should actually be increased.
Yeah, you think it has potential to help this unemployment situation?
Yeah, totally. Because take for instance what we are doing at Flux, right? So we're able to use tech, right, and we're building a payment infrastructure for cross-border transactions using blockchain technology, right? Now that just opens you into increasing the number of people that can go into the gig economy, that can ship their talents to other parts of the world, people that can access resources from other parts of the world, and you're able to open the options up to other people. So yeah, totally. Tech has the ability to drastically affect the unemployment rate of Nigeria today.
All right, thank you very much. We're going to take a break now. When we'll come back, we'll conclude our conversation. Please don't go away. All right, welcome back. We're still here having a conversation on International Youth Day, and we're going out to our Abuja studios. We have Okpe Oriniowo joining us from Abuja studios. How are you doing, Okpe?
Hello, Ebuka. Good to talk to you again.
Thank you very much for joining us. We're talking youth, and we're talking a lot about unemployment and, jobs creation and what sort of sectors seem to be thriving. We touched a bit before the break with our other guests on the disconnect between young people and politics. And that's what I want to start with you on. There's a belief by a lot of young people that, there's no quote-unquote space for young people in our political parties as they exist today. There's a lot of apathy, built over the years by several reasons. 2023 is around the corner. It's obviously too short a time for anything magical to happen. But what should young people be thinking about, as they celebrate International Youth Day, with regards to how they can be more involved in politics going forward?
All right, thank you. I think, like you adduced to, there is widespread apathy, and we've been dealing with that for a couple of years now. But we've had events that have also shown that, there's a certain level of awakening that we've seen over the period of time. If we look at the Not Too Young to Run bill, or we look at the NSAS movement, or, just the level of, activity that you see online, people can definitely begin to connect how, the lack of employment, bad roads, insecurity, and how it ultimately relates to bad governance, so to speak. So I would say there's been an improvement. But recently I was on a program where we're talking about, the last local government elections that took place, in Lagos State and in Ogun State, and how they turn out. There's no that direct, connection in terms of the numbers of people that we've seen come out, So there is still obviously some work to be done in terms of young people realizing that we need to go beyond this agonizing and this complaining and this, to transferring that to, how does change happen? What are these series of activities that need to align for change to happen that would like. So the first step would be, 2023 is a stone throw as the case may be, but there's voter registration going on at the moment. What are we doing? How well do we want to get those numbers up? Because ultimately it is now that we need to start to, see the need right now to register. If anything would happen, if our voice would amount to anything in 2023, we need to begin now. So looking at the numbers that, INEC put out, this morning I was still saying an update from INEC saying that there's some portals that have come up that are fake, collecting people's data wrongly, So, some of these things are happening, but we need to see how well we want to make this voter registration movement like. Can we make it like the NSAS movement and let it go viral? Let people be angry enough or sustain that energy enough right now to go and get themselves registered? So we can literally see that if we get ourselves registered and we can aggregate those numbers and those voices, we can translate it to something different in 2023. So I think those are some of the important issues, if at all we want to see any change. So it's beyond now complaining and just being on Twitter or is it Instagram now.
I hear you, but there are a lot of people who will tell you that they did quite a lot in 2019. People came out. There was some sort of level of enthusiasm. 2015 and even 2019. People did what they could. To bring change, which was what the mantra then was at the time. How do you convince someone like that who feels like, okay, I've done this much, 6, 7, 8 years down the line, I still kind of feel left out. You're looking at these parties now, they always say, oh, young people should join political parties. Every day we have a different party chairman, there's people are in court, people run for primaries, there's multiple primaries. So the entire thing seems very confusing for people. Why do I bother getting into politics if I'm going to win an election and the court throws me out because there were 3 other primaries holding in 3 other different halls? So for a young person, especially a generation now that are used to running their own things. We see what's happening with tech, like I said, and entertainment. People are used to running their things and doing it their way. Coming into a system where, there's never clarity, how do you convince someone like that to still stay interested?
The interesting part about, what we've done within the tech space and politics is that, it boils down to the fact that we're just not pulling our numbers. We're not pulling our numbers and we're not aggregating our voice. That seems to be like the Herculean task for young people across board. We're not coming together enough, and I would say that, we all share the same sentiment across board about Nigeria not being good enough, right? And unemployment is bad, road is bad and all that. Can we bring all that voice together. We've seen templates, for example, now, maybe in the last elections, of people who, against all odds, did not go on either the mainstream parties but emerge. They're in the National Assembly. We've seen some of them in the state assemblies. But we need to move beyond this escapees or this singular act of one person who, against all odds, to see how well we can collectively. That is being the ultimate trick that we've not been able to achieve. The aggregation of voices, I don't think it's as complex as it is, because the people who presently are running the show are not as smart as we are. I don't think there is anything that they're putting on the table that is rocket science. And if we're able to figure out tech the way we're doing, I think politics should be, we have more to offer in terms of some of these ideas we're already implementing. We just need to bring the policy space, the policy actors, which is the government, into the picture. So I still believe that the ultimate work is the aggregation of voices. We need to, come down to the reality of what our country is. This is where it is, And I'll also say that I think the other challenge also is the fact that even within the youth constituency, we're not this homogeneous entity. We have different cadres of youth, like myself and you are having this conversation right now about these whole issues. Not every Nigerian youth, is as educated or is on the same page. So we also have this, disenchantment amongst ourselves. How do we ensure that, we're able to build this kind of collective consensus on what the future of Nigeria is? Even maybe North and South, how do we ensure that, we are all in agreement that this is the problem in terms of now the path moving forward? Taking the Constitution, for example, there are a lot of conversations going on around this. I think we need to up the interest. We need to see how well all of this trickle of, unemployment, policy issues, all of these tiny bits of things that are affecting us, see how well, at the end of the day, it stops on the table. Because, for example, the tech that you mentioned earlier, so you see a Nigerian youth right now who has gone against all odds to create value, to create something that works, to get investors all the way. Then you see government show up, who wasn't part of the system of growing it, and says there's this new policy regulation and all that, and literally begin to become a clog in the wheel of progress. And the reality and the truth is that they are a clog because they don't even understand what you're even trying to do within that ecosystem. They cannot really relate with it as much, which is the importance of why we have to be on this other side of the table as well. So it's once we begin to see how all of these dots connect, it begins to provide clarity for us, and we now begin to determine a pathway to, how do we want to get into these political parties, or how do we even want to even create one? So I think these are some of the conversations that young people across the country need to begin to have.
30 seconds if you can. Are you excited or worried about, the future of the young Nigerian in the coming 2-3 years?
Well, that's a very interesting question. If I look at the indices, the reality of it as it is right now, I am worried, quite frankly, to say that. So is it half full, half empty, right? But I think there's also, I'm positive about what we can potentially do. It's the potential, right? But if we don't harness it right now, it doesn't amount to anything. So I have every reason to be worried at the moment. But there's still a lot we can do to change things around. So I think I'll be a bit measured in that response.
All right, thank you very much. Let me come to you in the studio now and ask you the same question. I know you are looking at more from the sector you work in. Are you excited? Are you worried about young Nigerians in the future?
I think I would go with him also, right? I would say that there is more work to be done, because you cannot underestimate the importance of young people in government, in policies. Like you said, they necessarily just need to understand, right? So take for instance, in the space we are playing in right now, we have the data, right? We understand what we are building, we understand the problems we are trying to solve, right? So we just need to be able to interface with the government and, have significant impacts when these policies are being made.
Yeah. How do we do that, though?
Well, I
because I always worry. I know we always say we need to interact with government, or I always wonder how.
How? Well, I think a good place to start from here is platforms, right? Like, let's create platforms. Let's create platforms where the youth and the government can, sit down and let's actually discuss.
Yeah.
We are all for, like I said earlier, these policies are not 100%, or they are not targeted to strangle Nigerians, because they are for us, right? So I think that we just need to be able to sit down together and understand that, this is actually how these things play out in the grand scheme of things.
Thank you very, very much for joining us today, Ayomide Lasaki, and of course, Okwenrinyo, who joined us from our Abuja studios, and all the other guests that joined us earlier via Zoom. Your contributions have been totally amazing. Thank you very much for joining us on the show today. We're going to take a break now, and we'll be right back. Please don't go away.